If you spend enough time on RC crawling, social media pages, or chat forums, you've likely come across somebody asking the question, what kind of crawler should I get? And maybe they've, maybe made a poll with a bunch of trucks, some of them really similar, some just totally different. And well, hopefully today I can help answer that question with a bag full of RC trucks. So I've got here today 3 trucks from my collection, and before we go further into this, I think it's important to point out that each one of these trucks is probably pretty good at something and maybe not so good at others. It's a good idea if you're going to buy an RC crawler to be familiar with the terrain that you're going to be in and playing in so that you can get the most out of your truck. So to start off, this is a Vanquish VS410. It started off as a kit that you can convert an axial SCX-10-2 into a Vanquish products. It's got the VFD transmission in it. I built it with AR45 axles. I had a good deal on them on a straight axle kit, so I bought it. I would call this kind of your standard RC crawler, and I don't mean standard and basic, I mean standard as in it sets the standard on what a good crawler is and can do all around. Whether it be an RTR truck like a Base Camp or a Phoenix, or a builder's kit. You can build something like this very easily with what's available on the market today for a really reasonable price and go out and have a lot of fun. Next is my RC 4-wheel drive Trailfinder 2. This is a Marlin crawler. I have put smaller wheels on it just because I like the way it looks. These trucks are a ton of fun. They just have a truckload of character, and when used in the right capacity, you will have a smile on your face all day long. They are a leaf sprung truck, so they will not articulate as well as a linked coil sprung truck, but like I said, they have so much character. They're a ton of fun to drive, and in the right terrain, they will do everything you want it to. They have these really cool looking Toyota realistic diff housing axles. Some people complain about them, but I've had good luck with this one. I've got the original drive shafts on it. I hope I'm not jinxing myself. I haven't blown them up yet, but I do drive this thing really carefully. I don't stuff it into things and try and power out of it. I'm pretty careful with it because I love it. I don't want to break it. Yes, the transfer case cross member is a bit of a shovel and will dig into things and hang you up. But there are ways to get around that with aftermarket parts on the internet, which I will be doing in the future. And finally, I have what I guess you would call in the industry like a competition style crawler. I won't pretend I know anything about competition crawling or the rules, so I won't say what class this is, if it's a 1, 2, 3, or 0. But I will call it, let's say, like a low center of gravity rig or a belly dragger rig. This is a Northwest Scalers design Scattergun V2 built with Traxxas parts. It has a Bauhaus low center of gravity battery tray and a Bauhaus low high clearance skid. It's got portal axles, being a Traxxas truck. And with these kinds of trucks, with their flat rail chassis, whether they're made out of stainless like this one, or aluminum, or carbon fiber, or some kind of composite material, they're incredibly stiff. There's hardly any flex there. And with the flat skids, I mean, this one is a Bauhaus one for a Traxxas. The Traxxas skid is not the flattest, of course, but there are ones that are perfectly flat with the bottoms of the rails, and they will like crawl and slide over things and not get hung up the way that a standard truck or a scale trail truck would. All right, first we have the Trailfinder 2. We're approaching a rock line here that is pretty technical and challenging. This big wall right at the start. Right away I stubbed the bumper into it and it can't get up, but with a little bit of readjustment, we picked a line with the tires, and you can see there's not a lot of flex there. Tires are lifting off the ground, but the truck will pull itself up and over. You let the tires do the work, easy on the throttle. There the back diff gets stuck on the rocks, but with a little bit of steering wheel action, we can kind of saw it back and forth and let the tires pull it up and over. Next, we're coming up to kind of like a waterfall of rock steps that you either go up or down. And as you can see, again, the lack of flex in these trucks really kind of holds them back in some ways. The front right tire is lifting off the ground. The truck is wanting to roll over. It's just not happy right now. I'm going to back up here a little bit and try and readjust and pick this line again. But again, the flex or lack thereof just does not want to let this truck kind of settle into this line, and there it goes. It rolls over. So through the magic of film editing, I reset the truck, and it looks like it never happened. And we're going to try and finish this line. And as you can see, there goes the back right tire. It's lifting up, but this isn't so bad. We can work through this. We're going to give it just enough throttle to try and get those tires to grip and pull it up and over. You can see that the flex is just not there, but the truck will do the work. If you're gentle with these trucks, they can do some rock crawling. And there, well, I stub it again, right on the diff, right on the rock there, but we'll back up a little bit. We can't take too aggressive of an approach on this line here. We'll just kind of pick our way through it and pull the truck up and over. And there, the Trailfinder 2 did make it up this line, but it wasn't easy. Next, we have the Vanquish VS410. This truck, I've got an axial 69 Chevy Blazer body on it, and even though it's Lexan, there's tons of great details on it. I love this truck. Bigger tires, you can see that it can start flexing. It does get hung up on this rock line because it does require a lot of ground clearance to get up and over it. But the truck's got some flex. I hang the rear diff up, so it's stuck on the rear diff again, but definitely gets through that part a lot easier. And now we can kind of see, oh, I get stuck again there. We'll see that a truck with a lot more flex, it can make its way up and over this next section a lot easier. You see the tires stuffing up into the wheel wells, and the truck does it actually pretty nicely. We'll come to this next part, take a bit more aggressive approach on it. The wheels pick up and over it, and the truck just does the work. It flexes and drives right through it. Pretty clean, better than the Trailfinder 2. Now finally we have the Scattergun V2 LCG belly dragger type crawler truck, and with a bumper like this you get a better approach angle, and this thing just walks up this part of the rock no problem. And with the portal axles, there's no problem with the diff getting hung up, and there's tons of articulation in these trucks, and you can see it just kind of walks right through the spot. It does slip down there, and now I'm in a bit of a trickier spot, but you just give it enough throttle, and these Traxxas trucks are bulletproof. You can give it throttle, you can gas it, and you can power through stuff that I just wouldn't do with my Trailfinder. I can take a bit more aggressive line on this part, and you can see no problem, just flexes through it, bigger tires, more ground clearance, and it makes it look easy. Next, we have a spot in this crawling area that is a bit more wide open. There's some flat spots to it. It looks great for trailing, but also rock crawling. Here you can see the Scattergun V2. I mean, it looks cool, but it's not being challenged at all by this. But once we get into this next spot, you'll see there's a bit more to it. There's some rocks and roots that we got to kind of pick our way around. And, you know, with a truck that's designed for articulating and flexing over and not tipping over due to high center of gravity, this truck just makes it look easy. We come up to this next spot here, and I can pick a real aggressive line and put my tire into a rock wedge and just pull it up and over, and it's easy, no problem. Truck makes it look like it's nothing. Next is the Trailfinder 2, and you can see what I mean about these trucks having character. It's bouncing along. It looks great, it's fun, and you know, there's really nothing challenging the truck here right now, but this is where it's in its element. Fun flat rocks like that, nice hiking trails. But you'll see when we get to this next part here, the truck does become a little unsettled going over some of these bigger rocks and roots. It starts to bounce around a lot. The suspension just really can't quite handle it, but it's having a great time doing it. There you see it slips and slides down a little bit. The wheels coming off the ground. But again, these trucks are more capable than you would think, and if you're careful and pick your lines, it will do some pretty fun stuff. And there you see it's up through the rocks and roots and onto this next spot. Now, it'll never do what the LCG truck just did. As you can see, there goes the back tire off the ground, but it does pull itself up over a decent sized rock wall. Finally, here we have the VS410, and again, this is where your standard kind of all-around great trail truck RC crawler does well. It looks great going through this part. These trucks with the linked suspension and coilovers have great articulation, and with a good-looking body on them like this, they just kind of do it all for you. We come to this part here, you can see the truck settles in a lot better than the Trailfinder 2. The suspension flexes over these rocks. The tires are doing their work, getting traction, pulling the truck up and through this kind of technical rocks and roots. We'll get to the top here. And of course, we won't be able to do quite of an aggressive line as the Scattergun truck, but we can do a bit more than the Trailfinder 2. This is the front tires tucking up into the wheel wells, the rear tires getting traction, pulls itself up, and makes it look good doing it. Finally, this last section of the trail here is just a nice walking path. If you've got hiking paths near your house and you want to take an RC crawler with you, by all means, one of these standard RC crawlers can do this and have a lot of fun. As you can see, the truck's just kind of picking its way through these lines here. There's nothing really challenging about it. It is a bit of a narrow path, but really nothing to complain about here. The grass is a little high, so it gets in the way. But as you can see, there's just nothing that's going to unsettle this truck here. It's going to pick its way through here, and you'll have a lot of fun taking one of these hiking with you. A couple of different shots of it just kind of going underneath this juniper bush. These trucks, they bounce along and look a lot of fun when you film them and edit them in this way. Unfortunately, I broke the mirrors off this thing already. But these big pieces of granite are great for the trucks getting traction and just kind of picking their way through any kind of line you want. This truck has been fun to build, fun to drive, and is definitely one of my favorite trucks in my collection. Next is the Scattergun V2, and this is where a truck like this or a LCG truck, really, I don't think there's much point to this. There's not a whole lot for it to kind of pick technical lines and work its way through the truck. This would be just kind of boring for one of these trucks. But nonetheless, you can take one of these hiking with you or camping and still have fun just driving around through trails. But I really think there are better trucks that this kind of driving is suited for. The nice thing about these trucks is that they've become popular enough that there are some RTR kits out there from Red Cat. There are some builder kits from both Vanquish and Axial, and you can get into one of these for not a bad price and have a lot of fun. And last but not least, here's the Trailfinder 2, and this is where this truck really is in its element. This is what these trucks are made for. Hiking trails, having fun, not really throwing anything too technical or challenging in its way. Don't worry about rollovers because, it's just dirt. It'll be fine. You're not going to stuff the tires into a rock hole and blow up your axles or your drive shafts. These trucks, I think, just have tons of character, and the hard body is such a good-looking thing. There's not really anything in the Lexan world that can compare to it. And there's a good variety of these trucks with different body styles as well. I think at one point in time I would like to get a 4Runner body on this because I think those look really cool as well. As you can see, the truck does bounce around a little bit. My suspension does have some articulation. There's flex in there. It's getting broken in, but I've got plans for this truck, and that's going to be brought up in a later video, I think, what I plan to do with it. So as you can see, like, these things just look scenic. They do well in picturesque settings, and you can have so much fun with one of these if you put them in the right scenario. Well, there you go. Hopefully that gives you a bit of a visual representation what each truck is good at. Interesting note, when I was filming this, spots like what the low center of gravity truck was good at and what the scale trail truck was good at, I found easiest to film with the truck that I kind of had in mind for that spot. The scale trail truck really is a lot narrower than the Vanquish truck and of course the Traxxas truck, and so it fit through that tight kind of trail a lot easier and was a lot easier to film. And the Scattergun truck, with its low center of gravity and high clearance, could climb up that kind of waterfall of stones a lot easier, and it was a lot easier to film that shot than the other two trucks. And then of course, like, the Vanquish truck did everything the other trucks could do, and it did it well, but in comparison to the scale trail trucks, I mean, not all Lexan bodies look good. I'm really lucky that I have this Axial 69 Chevy Blazer body. I think it looks great, it's lightweight, and it gives the truck some character. The low center of gravity trucks typically don't have a hard body. I have one on there that I dovetailed the rear end to give room for the tires to articulate. But going up the trail where the scale trail truck looked the best, I thought it looks kind of boring. It looks like it's like, you know, what am I doing here? I'm just going to the next spot on the trail with the aggressive rock lines. So there you have it. Obviously, this is just my opinion, but I hope it gives you a little bit of something to think about and helps you make a decision for what kind of truck you want. In the end, no matter what you get, I hope you have fun, and thanks for joining me on this adventure, and I hope to see you on the next one.